So welcome back to Reboot. And firstly, thank you for the thoughts, the comments, the subscribes to the last video. And I know the subject matter was a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Contentious, I guess. But I really appreciate those of you that took the time to respond. And you know, I mean, I will make another video on some of the topics that came out of that last video. I had a number of questions, which I'm throwing up on the screen now, that I'd really like to dive into and understand a little bit more. But we'll park that for today, as I'd already planned to make another video on the 3 reasons that I moved to, or 3 reasons that I chose Cambodia to make my home, versus some of the other countries that I was perhaps more familiar with, having lived there before, but why ultimately I decided to land on Cambodia. And there's a number of different reasons for that, which we will explore in this video. So, the first part, and you know, if we're ranking these in terms of order, this is definitely the biggest reason that I chose Cambodia, and it was a practical reason. So I knew that I wanted to set up a company in Southeast Asia and focus on the development of that business so that I would be able to afford to live and provide an income that would accommodate my desired living standards. So practically, Cambodia put a tick in the box. It's, as a country, they allow for 100% foreign ownership of companies, something that isn't true for a lot of the neighbouring countries. So, I mean, again, thinking specifically of Thailand, where I lived for a number of years and was based with my employment, on paper, and I understand there are ways that this can be manipulated, but on paper, a foreigner is allowed to own 49% of a company, which gives the majority shareholding to a Thai national. And whilst I have some amazing friends in Thailand, great personal friends that I've had for 15, 20 years, I didn't feel comfortable with passing the control of my business across to someone else, of any country. So Thailand was out. Singapore and Hong Kong offer 100% foreign ownership, but moving to Asia with a relatively limited budget, that wasn't a practical solution, as the cost of living in both Singapore and Hong Kong is 5 to 10 times what it would be in Cambodia. The other benefits are tax rates are relatively low, and the formation process, whilst it was a little bit complicated, was simple if you employ an agent to help you navigate through that process. And the cost of setting up a company, and I've seen videos online talking about it being, you know, almost hitting $10,000. My experience is it was nowhere near that level. Even with the $1,000 of registered capital that needed to be deposited into the bank, it was less than $5,000 end to end, and it took approximately 2 months. So that's by far the single largest reason why I chose to make Cambodia my home, a practical one around business formation. Other practical considerations include the visa situation, and owning a business here and being the resident director, I'm able to pay myself a salary at a much lower income tax level. I'm also able to secure 1-year multi-entry visas on the back of owning a business here. And the other benefit, and I haven't really talked about this in previous videos, is the fact that the US dollar is the kind of the de facto currency in Cambodia. Sure, I know we have the real, but it's very easy here to open a US dollar business account and be able to transact on international payments in from our brand partners. So the other country that I was considering was Malaysia, which has a similar cost of living to Cambodia, and it allows foreign ownership, but there was a higher rate of tax on income and tax on profits. So all in, when I balanced everything out and I wrote down on a piece of paper all of the choices that were open to me, Cambodia was the best fit, practically, in setting up and registering a company, which was my primary focus because I needed to find a way to be able to afford to live and maintain a certain living standard. So number one, practically, business. So number two on my list of three reasons why I chose Cambodia is the cost of living. And as I just mentioned, I moved out here with a extremely limited budget to set myself up. So the research that I'd done before moving to Cambodia, and also from my limited exposure to Cambodia before moving here, the cost of living here is low. So I was able to secure in Phnom Penh an apartment that fell comfortably within my budget, and the cost of food and living in general, again, came in well below the amount that I'd budgeted for. And I discovered, and this was not part of the master plan, but I discovered also that I was able to go so much further than on my budget in Siem Reap, because the cost of living here outside of the capital city is also considerably cheaper. And like I said in the previous part, I'd done my due diligence on other countries. Having lived in Hong Kong and Singapore for a while, I already knew that the cost of accommodation would be beyond my initial means. I think that, when I lived in Hong Kong, my apartment there in the mid-levels was almost 5 times what I'm paying here currently. So, it was not a practical consideration to move to either Singapore or Hong Kong due to the high cost of living, even though even though there were other benefits like incentives that the governments in both countries offered to new businesses as an incentive to set up company or set up shop in those countries. But when I balanced everything out, the cost of living in Cambodia on paper before I moved here was the second reason why I prioritized Cambodia. And I found, not just practically, not just from my research, but also living here, that even maintaining an active social life and eating out almost every day, the cost of living here is considerably lower than I'd even budgeted for when I was thinking about making the move. So cost of living is certainly number 2 on the list, and it does allow me to live a very comfortable lifestyle here in Cambodia at a fraction of the price of neighbouring countries. So third on the list, or certainly on the list that I drew up before moving to Cambodia, was people and culture. I had visited Cambodia probably on a handful of occasions before making the permanent move out here in 2020, and had always been impressed with the beauty of the country. And I hadn't even visited Siem Reap at that stage. But, as we walk down this riverside area, you get a feel, or you can appreciate how magical this part of the world is. It's thoroughly underdeveloped. There's no high-rises or skyscrapers. It's a very natural and beautiful environment. So the place itself has played a huge part in my desire to stay in Cambodia and make this my forever home. Outside of the place, the people have been so welcoming. Nothing has been too much trouble in terms of the questions that I've asked in forming the business, or any questions that I have as I develop this opportunity in Southeast Asia, from government offices and officials through to the consultancy team that helps me to remain compliant on a day-to-day basis. Everyone has been so supportive and kind and considerate. And that's part of what I think makes Cambodia so special. And it's such a welcoming environment for foreigners. And here we are in low season, and the image that you'll see on screen is obviously Cambodians or Khmer people enjoying an evening by the riverside. And even when tourist numbers are down, and with the lack of tourism, I guess some pressures on the economy, people are generally so happy. And it's something that inspires me and has inspired me to become happier with my life and become more content with what I have, which was ultimately my goal in moving to Asia in the first place, to rediscover happiness and my motivation for life and business. So people and culture are an incredibly important part of my decision to remain in Cambodia. And at the time that I was deciding on where to base myself was number 3 on my list of reasons why I chose Cambodia. So just to wrap up this video, they were the 3 reasons that brought me to Cambodia. And whilst the last reason is probably the most important to me now, so the people and culture, and they're the reason that I am so happy to be here, I thought it would be a useful exercise to share with you all of the reasons that I came to Cambodia. And so whether that be foreign ownership of a company, whether it be the cost of living, or the people and the culture, just to help frame the decision-making process that I went through to end up in this part of the world that I genuinely love.